Welcome to Build the Story, then the Dashboard Retail Edition. So, let's talk about something many of us in data have been guilty of, and that's simply asking the question of what do you want? Is there an existing report you can show me? And then simply launching Power BI Desktop and starting to develop the solution. Now, here's the truth. This approach doesn't always work, right? I'm not saying you can't find success using it, but from my many years of experience going through reports that have worked and haven't worked, what I've found is when you simply launch Power BI Desktop, when you don't spend enough time with the end users, the audience, ask them a set of tailored questions to really understand where are they trying to go, what other objectives are trying to achieve, what are the challenges they're trying to overcome, we end up building solutions that are ignored or even worse, get binned. So here's the thing. Rather than launching Power BI Desktop, spend more time with your end users. Spend more time on wireframing, creating a blueprint of success, right? Once you do these two things, I promise you the development or the build phase will be so much easier. So, with that said, let's jump into it. Okay, so here we have it, our retail solution. Now, this is just an image, of course, it's a screenshot. Before we actually jump into it, it's only right that we explore how do we derive the story. After all, this series is called Build the Story, then the Dashboard, right? So on screen now, you'll see some of the elements I like to go through when I've identified the audience, the end users. Now, please keep in mind, this is a simplified example just so I can present it to you all as well. Of course, it takes a lot of time to maybe put some of this together. You'll never be able to do it on the first go. So far, I've never managed to achieve this in one go as well. And it's fair, right? The end users would then want to maybe take away the information they provided and digest it and come back with a few changes. But anyway, let's go ahead and see the story or how we gather the requirements for the retail solution. And like I said, you start off with who is your audience? Always, right? Who are the end users that will be using the end solution? Those are the most important people to include as part of this process. And before I actually get into what we have on screen, I just want to call out the number one reason I find reporting projects fail is simply because we don't gather the requirements from the actual people who will be using the solution. From my experience, this is what I found. We have, let's say, a group of influential people in the organization, maybe a group of seniors who claim to understand the day to day challenges of the end users, but in reality, no one understands the day to day challenges better than the end users themselves. They should be included in the process. The requirements should be gathered from them. Even if you don't include them and you build something that is somewhat aligned to their needs, once you go to launch the solution and present it to them for the first time, it's very likely they won't trust the solution. Rightfully so. They weren't included in the process, right? So back to the example. In this solution here, it was five regional managers. It was for a large UK retailer. They have around 100 plus stores across the UK. So these regional managers, after discussing the requirements a bit more, I found out that each of them look after a slice of the country. Of course, each region having its own stores and each store having either one or two store managers who directly report back to the regional managers. And the regional managers do give bi weekly updates either to the CFO or CEO as well. So, that there is our audience, the actual people who will be using this solution. I also do want to call out we did have some communication from a few store managers who said they also need various elements included, and also the exec team said a few other elements need to be included in here as well. But that is now when you go down the path of creating these overly complicated, out of focus solutions are trying to satisfy way too many audiences' needs. Okay, so really, what we did, we created a completely separate solution for the store managers that fed nicely into the regional manager solution. Anyway, Once you understand who is your audience, we move to why build this solution. So the way I like to put it to the end users is like this. Why are we investing our time, effort, and money into building a report or a dashboard, right? What's the ultimate purpose here? What's the ultimate need? And really, I try to get a long narrative here to really dig into, is there a genuine need for this report? I regularly find we build reports and dashboards for the sake of it because we don't focus on what's the genuine purpose. And if sometimes we just ask a few more questions, it will prevent us from building a dashboard and going down this lengthy process where maybe a bit of a SQL script and an extract could have done the job. But in this instance here, they gave a lot of good information. Again, I've summarized it down, but they said, look, lads, we need to quickly identify and address underperforming stores for previous weeks, but also for the current week that we're in. Maybe it's Wednesday or Thursday. One of our flagship stores, our major stores, is really underperforming. We're about to hit or miss the weekly sales target. We need to understand this as soon as possible so we can pick up the phone, talk to the store managers, talk to marketing or anyone else who maybe has an influence or maybe increase in sales. So that was really good. Another bit of information they provided was, again, they do report back to the CEO and the CFO, right? And ultimately, it comes down to the sales targets. That's it. And that's really interesting because it takes us to the next point. Like I said, why build this solution? I like to build out a bit of a narrative, a bit of a paragraph to really understand why are we doing it. But then on the objective, or sometimes I make this a challenge, right? Nail it down, really bring it out to be a single sentence, I like to say. What are we doing here? Well, it was, in this case, it's to achieve the weekly regional sales targets. That's it. And I try to make this as measurable as possible as well, by the way, right? The reason I do this is because I find that's a great way to measure the return on investment or the value of the solution we're about to build. What's very common is many simply look at the usage logs of a report. How many times has someone viewed the report? But that's not the right way to view the value. It should be by the insights we derive and what we do with those insights as well, right? So if something is measurable, you know if you're moving towards it or away from it. That should be the value. Now, the next questions I usually ask is, well, okay, we know that this is your challenge or your objective. How do you know if you are moving towards it, right? And in this example here, the regional manager said, look, lads, our ultimate objective is sales target. Now, what we need to be able to see on a daily, weekly basis is sales versus last year, average transaction value, because the higher the value of a transaction or basket, essentially, the more sales. We need to be able to track that if it falls under. We also need to see units per transaction so we can understand, are customers buying into bundles? Are our salespeople cross-selling additional items to increase UPT, which increases sales? Also, we need to be able to monitor footfall as well as the conversion percentage, and they really emphasize conversion percentage as being one of the key KPIs they need to have full visibility over. Now, we've also had more KPIs here. Some were going more into stock, which is fair, but then we said it doesn't directly impact this challenge or objective, which is weekly regional sales targets. There was also some talks around digital marketing KPIs. Again, wasn't relevant, so we moved it somewhere else. The point is, keep the KPIs are super relevant to your ultimate purpose. Once we've gathered those, and if you think about it all, your KPIs are your numerical attributes, right? They're your measures in Power BI, not to be mistaken as just a standalone number. No, it needs to be compared to something to say if it's positive or negative. But when you're gathering this information from a data modeling perspective, this translates maybe into your fact tables as well, the things that can be counted or aggregated. And now we're moving into what's causing red or green. So in other words, I like to ask questions such as, you mentioned average transaction value as being one of the KPIs we must track to understand we're moving towards our ultimate purpose. If average transaction value was high in the green, what's causing it? Why is it high in the green? And the answer I got, well, it could be maybe a few select stores really overperforming, Or maybe a few of our salespeople are really good at upselling and they're causing the increase. Well, there's two pieces of information there that were really valuable to me because I then would want to see ATV by store and maybe average transaction value and see what salespeople are most contributing to this as well. And you can continue this. What's causing footfall to be very low in the red or negative? Well, lads, it could be weather. Sorry, it could be very low promotions, so not driving people to store. But then when weather is bad, it drives people more to stores that are in shopping malls or department stores, which is also interesting because that's another thing we could break down the KPI by. But you get the idea. Rather than just looking at the level of detail, the dimensionality, as we say it from a modeling perspective, if you ask the question in the sense of, well, what's making it be in the red or the green, negative or positive, it builds up a better story. Now, once you have all this collected, that's when you move to the hardest part, I like to say, which is the action, right? So, in other words, okay, let's say ATV is high in the green, and let's say that we've connected this to be these salespeople really causing this. What would you take any action on the back of this? Yes, we would absolutely move some of these individuals from a high performance store maybe to a really low performance store. That way, low performing salespeople can maybe shadow them and see what they're doing differently as well. So, in other words, is the solution we're building actionable? Are we taking or deriving actions from the solution? That's what we're trying to identify here. But that was an overview of the elements that I follow to collect the story. Um, Again, I did simplify this example in order to present it back. But now the next phase is once I have this information, I clean it up, I send it back to the end users to get the green light, the approval from them, and that's when I move to this. This might look like Power BI, but I promise you it's not. It's PowerPoint, right? So I use PowerPoint, I design backgrounds, template files as we like to call them, align them to the organizational branding, and most importantly, I bring the story to life. The number one benefit of doing this, it gives you another opportunity to sit down with the end users and say, look, from all the information we collected, this is the end product that we'll be getting. It stops us from going straight into build and then having to redevelop over and over again because maybe there was a misunderstanding or a miscommunication between us and the end users as well. So once you have this, what I also like to do, I put annotation boxes all around the wireframe and I always present it back to the end users before sending it. That way I can show them this is the story, these are the requirements, and this is how it comes to life through the solution. So let's now go ahead and see the actual solution in play. Okay, welcome to the homepage for the Regional Retail Analysis Report. Now, of course, keep in mind, everyone, this is dummy data, but I use very real examples from past experiences. So, I love a good homepage as it gives instant information that is important to the end users. For example, here on the left-hand side, you can see a strong summary on the purpose of the report and also who has this report been built for, right? And again, having this information front and center reminds everyone who's come into the solution that it was built for a particular purpose and for a particular group of end users as well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and click summary button, and this will take us to the main page of the report. Now, I do want to set the scene as well. So imagine it's Monday morning and you're a regional manager, you've just logged into this dashboard and you want to get a pulse on how last week went, or perhaps even midweek, right? And I want to see how the current week is shaping up so I can maybe jump on any potential opportunities as well. Now, don't forget, this dashboard does update on a daily basis, meaning that I can actually look at near real-time information. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and select up here on the panel. You see I have the home button. I can go back to the home button. We're currently on summary. We can go to region page. But I do have a filter and a help button. I'm going to go ahead and select filter. And the current week I have selected, again, you're seeing 2017 is dummy data that I changed around. This is last week, which is a full completed week. The current week is, let's say, week 23, right? And here's the thing. Let's say the current week we're on Wednesday and we're down versus sales versus last year and ATV. Well, the good thing about being able to see this as we're in the midweek on a day by day basis, I can quickly pick up the phone to the store managers and say, hey, we're well below sales targets. It's midweek. What can we do to turn this around as well? But for the purpose of this analysis, I will keep it to week 22. So I'll just click filter panel again just to go ahead and collapse that, right? Now, before we actually move on as well, you'll notice I do have a little help icon here. If I click the help icon, this is something I like to call guided learning. Again, it's not part of the story, but I've had amazing feedback. I always implement experiences like this in all the reports I build. It's part of familiarization and getting users to know how to use the solution. So as soon as you click help, you see these little helpful annotation boxes pop up. Right now, I've kept it fairly basic and simple, but I have other more complex examples that really assist end users as part of the reporting journey. So I'm going to go ahead and select that to make it disappear once again. Okay, so what we actually seeing here, everyone, at the top of our dashboard, we are seeing our core KPIs. So sales, average transaction value, units per transaction, and of course, the conversion percentage as well. All of these go against last year because that's what we want to compare it against. And really, this allows the regional managers all to understand if they're moving towards the goal, right, to hit the overall regional sales targets that they report back to the CFO and CEO on a bi-weekly basis. So are we moving towards it or are we moving away from it? And just at a glance, I can understand the health of our regions as well, or the overall company. Um, Another request was, well, actually, Laz, it's great that we can see on a weekly basis based on the selection on multiple weeks, but we want to be able to see, well, on a month to date and a year to date basis, because yes, let's say we are down on sales minus 20% for the week, but then if we go to month to date and we see that we're up 15%, it's less of a concern and so on, right? So hence the reason we had these very helpful buttons here that you can toggle, and it will essentially change the visual or the KPI to show weekly, the current week selected, month to date, or also year to date as well. Now, looking at this here, I guess there's one thing that really stands out, right? And to me, it's ATV. I'm looking at ATV. I can see versus last year for the current week, we are 11% down. Apart from that, using this little progress bar here, which I really like, is a clear indicator that we are down as well. There's a little gap here, meaning this is what was remaining. Last year target, so the target was 306, but we're currently on 272. So the fact that sales remain strong, however, ATV is down, what does that mean? Well, it means that customers are still purchasing as sales remains the same roughly, right? But the value of each transaction is potentially slipping. So the next thing that comes to mind now as a person viewing this report is, well, is this a broad issue affecting all regions equally, or can we pinpoint it to a few areas, right? So if I move down here now, everyone, you'll notice I have the KPI, so in this case, sales broken down by region, which is a nice visual to actually have here as well. But again, I'm concentrating on ATV now, so I can go ahead here and select ATV. All the bottom visuals have now switched to show the ATV rather than sales, and you can do the same for UPT or conversion as well. So what I'm seeing is, well, London is holding strong here or steady, right? It's up 1.9% versus last year. The North is down, all right, around 5%. But wow, South and Midlands are the areas that may be dragging the overall company down when I'm looking at ATV, right? So really, I should maybe try and focus my efforts here as well, right? Um, and what's going on, right? Is it maybe, I don't know, do we need to adjust the product mix? Do we need to maybe do a bit more workshops or training to staff to show them how to upsell? Is it maybe we're not running enough localized promotions for particular regions or particular stores, in fact, right? But again, these are sort of things that come to mind. But also, is it a one off? Is it just this week? Are we just having a bad week, everyone, for Midlands and South? Or is it a continuous issue? And this is something we do certainly need to explore as well. The other thing, let's say now I am the, because after all, this is for the regional managers. Let's say I'm the manager of Midlands. So everything in Midlands I look after. I need to report back to the CFO and CEO for the performance of Midlands. Now, instantly, what I see here, I see my top five and bottom five performing stores. But again, this is for total company level, not just Midlands. But what caught my attention was the fact that I have Walsall as the second worst performing store in the company, and that belongs to my region, right? So that's not too great. But then, surprise, surprise, I see Kenilworth, that is also in the Midlands. It's one of my stores, is actually the top performing stores, right? So, some quick insights here is I definitely need to maybe pay attention to Warsaw, maybe reach out to the store manager, but maybe also I can reach out to Kenilworth and find out, well, what's going on here? Why are we so high performing? Have we made any changes that we can maybe apply to our low performing stores as well? But let me go ahead and focus only on the Midlands. So I'm going to go ahead and select Midlands. And instantly, what you see is the entire dashboard has now rendered to only show the results for my region. And again, now you can see the KPIs up here. Well, we are minus 26% for ATV. We are down on sales. We are down on UPT. But funny enough, conversion is up, right? But if I continuously look at the top and bottom five stores, well, yeah, I can see, as I thought before, Walsall is still the top, the bottom, the lowest performing store, and Kenilworth is one of the top performing stores. Surprised, I can't see Birmingham on here as well, which is is usually a top performer for me, and naturally is my flagship store, right? So maybe want to look into a bit afterwards as well. But the other thing as well, is this maybe due to a particular day or a few days in the week? So if I look down here for the Midlands, I can see, well, look, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I can see consistently I'm down. But then, look, on Thursday, we are up for ATV, but I do know we did run some localized promotion at the region level here, so that could be influencing that. But also, you can see we sort of increase as we get onto the weekend versus the beginning of the week. And previously, I did have some issues where um, the sort of high ticket stock wasn't arriving in stores on time for the beginning of the week. Also, previously, the rotors weren't done correctly, so we didn't have high performing salespeople. So, again, these are a few things that I would certainly want to find out if they are the case again. Also, I have a decomposition tree here, which I find super helpful. And I want to understand, is it maybe a particular product category causing the issue? So I am going to go expand on ATV verse last year. I'm going to go to product category. And by selecting, well, okay, what's interesting is miscellaneous and accessories are the top two performers, but really these are the low ticket items. Women's wear, menswear, and bags, there you go. And bags are usually the high ticket items. So it's interesting that those are the underperforming ones. Why are they the underperforming ones as well? So if I go to subcategory for menswear, again, formal shirts is a high ticket category, so something to maybe explore in a bit more detail as well. But now, look, I think I got some good information here, but I want to move away. I want to move away from the summary view and I want to focus purely on my region. So I am going to go ahead and right click on Midlands, drill through into the region level. And this now keeps all the filters I've applied in the summary page. So because I've selected week 22 and because I selected or I drilled down through the Midlands region, it will bring this over. So on screen, I'm only seeing elements in the stores for my individual region, right? And I do like these top two visuals here. Now, what am I seeing here? I'm seeing how many transactions each store has made alongside the total sales as well. And again, really, it does stand out. Warsaw for me stands out because Well, look, such a high number of transactions, but yet such a low number of sales, right? So instantly to me, this means a decline in ATV, right? And it could mean customers are making smaller purchases, potentially due to no upselling by staff, again, low visibility of high ticket items or no local in store promotion. So, in other words, more needs to be done here to actually boost the overall store performance. But also, if I look on the other side here as well, which is why I've ordered it by the store name so I can see it in the same order as well, which I like. It's interesting to see that Warsaw has a considerable, actually, it has the highest footfall compared to all other stores, right? Yet yet the conversion is actually really low as well. Also, I did mention Birmingham before. Birmingham, again, usually has the highest footfall. Now it's the third highest for the particular week. But if I look at conversion, I mean, come on, it's 9.5. The average should be around 18 to 20%. So there's something going on here, and it's worth picking up the phone again to talk to the Birmingham store manager and see what changes have been made here. Why are we so low in conversion for the current week? It doesn't make sense for this store, right? Um, Now, the other thing I guess worth calling out as well is on the bottom here, we do have some additional visuals. So I have my top selling product and product category. So I like this, so I can instantly see what product category is top performing in women's wear, well, it's skirts, and men's wear, it's suits, so on. And then also I have a bit of a tabular view of all my stores as well as my core KPIs as well. So look, I'm already building a clearer picture of how my region is performing, the problematic areas, and where I can take some immediate actions, primarily for Walsall and Birmingham. However, for Walsall, is this a continuous issue or is it just a one time blip? That's what's going through my mind. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on Walsall, drill through into trending, and I like this. So what do I have here? I have the historical data of overall performance, and instantly, I mean, just for Walsall, there's a clear increase in footfall, which is great. It means obviously our marketing campaigns are working well. We're driving more people to the store. It will be interesting to find out what exactly. But then conversion has drastically decreased as well from week 19. Why is that the case, right? But at the same time, sales are decreasing from week 16, 17 as well, and so is the number of transactions as well, right? So look, this is definitely not a one time, not an issue specific to week 22. I should have spotted this earlier as well. However, funny enough, after I did reach out to the store managers, it turns out the store recently did adjust its product layout, right? They moved around the gallery and how all the items have been displayed. They've moved high ticket items to the less prominent areas, I should say. Surprise, surprise. In addition to that, I did find out that some new staff members did not actually complete their upselling training because of the influx of people and customers, potential customers walking in. They didn't attend the actual upsell training as well. So this could be a likely factor for the conversion falling down as well. Now, look, there's a few actions to take on the back of this, which is great. But as I said earlier, everyone, this is dummy data. We could also have the salesperson information in here, which we did, right? So if you hover over a particular store, if you hover over a particular store, it will show the salespeople part of that store, the individual performance. You could also have the promotions and discounts by seasonality to see which ones are working and which ones aren't working, weather information, etc., etc. But with that said, everyone, hopefully you saw the value you can get from such a dashboard, and more importantly, when you start off with the story. If you start off with the story, you understand where the regional managers want to go. You understand how they know if they're on track to it. You understand, well, if one of the KPIs is down, what could be causing it? This is what we want to be seeing in here. What are the types of actions they could be taking? If they aren't going to take any actions, is it worth us having it on the dashboard? But anyway, hopefully you found that valuable. If you have any concerns about your dashboards, not given a story, reach out.